Hey, aloha, everybody. This is Jeff Reinebold. It is Coffee with the Coach, our 81st chance at this and our 81st episode. And really, this is a special one because it's obviously our Makahiki show, which is our New Year's show. And it's a big, big weekend in the NFL, week 17 in the NFL. And there are some huge contests. And we are going to dig in deeply to one of the most outstanding matchups of this weekend. And that's the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that has huge playoff implications. Michael, come on out here if you would, please.
Happy New Year, Jeff.
I want you to, Magic Mike, welcome to the show. Hey, Happy New Year to you too. How are things in Ireland?
Happy New Year. Great, Jeff. We couldn't get our first show of the year off last night until now, but the good news for you is you're in Hawaii and you've got functioning Wi-Fi. So I think this year is going to be a good year, and delighted. Great week ahead in the NFL. Really looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be a huge week, and this is, again, you talk about the business end of the season. This is when the games get bigger, the implications get much more intense. The hitting is special. The speed of the game is it's hard for a fan to understand, but the game actually changes as you get closer to playoffs, then into the playoffs, and certainly championship games, the Super Bowl are, the intensity is ratcheted up even further. We've got a guy in here from the Cincinnati Bengals UK fan club they're not used to all this, Mike. This is kind of uncharted waters for these guys. So bring on our guest and let's start talking some football.
Yes, they're delighted to welcome in Paul from Bengals UK into the show. We've had Jamie on the show previously. Great bunch of guys, Bengals UK. Paul in for them tonight, and here's Paul.
Paul, welcome to the show. It's great to have the Cincinnati Bengals represented at this point in the year. Usually what we're talking about is who you're going to draft. Now we're talking about, are you going to win the AFC North?
Absolutely. Happy New Year, Jeff. Or should I say, Howoli Makahiki Ho?
Wow, dude. Hey, listen, you pulled that off flawlessly. I like it.
I've practiced for like a day and a half on that one since I knew that was coming on. But no, you're right. Normally we're doing mock drafts. I mean, last couple of years we started doing mock drafts in October, but now we're kind of, it's just what every fan kind of asks their team of, really, isn't it? To be meaningful, to play meaningful football in December and then into January. It's fantastic. We haven't done this for 5 years or so. So yeah, it's great to be in this position. We've been enjoying the season. We're a fun team to watch this year, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that we can carry it on and qualify for the playoffs. That'd be great.
All right, now talking about meaningful football, and what you're wearing today, that's got playoffs written all over it, my man. Because can you stand up so that we can get a better picture of that? I mean, that is outstanding with all of the Polynesian tapa all over it. That looks like you got that at the swap meet at the Aloha Stadium in Honolulu. Because I swear to God, that is legit. That's legit Polynesian.
I always treat myself to some sort of Bengals uniform, whether it be a jersey. I'm big into because I've supported the team for 30 years. So I'm big into my sort of vintage stuff, not necessarily the new stuff, but the vintage stuff. So I scour eBay and Etsy and all these kind of places. And I saw this and I thought, well, that's something, isn't it? So I treated myself. This is the Christmas gift to myself this year.
Well, man, I'm telling you what, you treated yourself well with that one, because wear that proudly, because that has major implications. And I tell you what, that looks like the playoffs to me. Fred Flunk is in, as always, one of the greatest of our tribe. He's with us, and he wants to wish a happy new year to everybody. Let's start talking about your Bengals. Now, I think there was a lot of hope around the drafting of Joe Burrow, and then a lot of hand-wringing after he got hurt in his rookie season. He played really well, I think, as a rookie without a tremendous amount of players around him. Came back off that knee injury, and it's interesting, Paul, because you never really know when a guy comes off a knee injury how he's going to react. Burrow's a tough kid and a great worker, but when he hung 500 last week on the Baltimore Ravens, and I know that was a depleted Ravens team and all of that stuff, but that's still National Football League talent out there. what a statement by a young quarterback.
Yeah, huge, really. And as you say, we saw flashes of why we drafted Joe Burrow last year before he got hurt. And it was such a shame because the offense was starting to pretty much slide. I mean, in that Washington game, that first half against the football team, I mean, they were slicing and dicing that defense, who last year were very good. So we saw plenty of promise and plenty of potential there, especially offensively. What let us down last year, obviously, was the offensive line, and then the defense was just awful. We were basically having to do what the Ravens did against us last week, if that makes sense. We were playing a bunch of guys from the practice squad, signing guys off the street. It really was dire straits in terms of injuries last year. But yeah, you're right. It was a number of things had to go right for this team to be a decent team this year, and we can go into some of the others if you'd like. But certainly, top of the pops there was whether Joe Burrow could return to the form before he displayed before he got injured. And of course, as you say, that's tough, man. And you know what? He's had his struggles this year. He's not been perfect. He's made a few kind of almost rookie-ish mistakes. He's made some wrong decisions. He's thrown a lot of interceptions. But as the season's gone on, the confidence is, you can just see it. He just exudes confidence. He exudes calmness. This is a guy that's won a national championship, and he's carried that winning mentality, that steely, almost swaggery confidence, but quite steely confidence into this year. And certainly since the bye week, he's making much better decisions when it comes to throwing the ball down the field. And everything just seems to be clicking at the moment. We've always known that we've had good skill position players. Drafting Jamar Chase has given us a dimension that we really missed last year, the down the field threat. But this year, it's all kind of coming together. It's taken its time. We've been very patchy, very inconsistent. But yeah, it all came together last week against the Ravens, albeit, as you say, a very much depleted Ravens. So I'm kind of saying, yeah, it was amazing last week. Records here, there, and everywhere were being smashed up. But it was against the Ravens team that was severely depleted. So I'm kind of trying to be, quite realistic about things without going crazy. I was jumping out of my seat last week like all Bengals fans were, because it's a divisional rival and we have a really good, quite an even rivalry with the Ravens. But yeah, last week when everything was going crazy, I kind of like, calm down. It is just, we're talking practice squad players off the street. And we should be beating a team like that, quite frankly. If we have any aspirations to get to the next level, you have to take care of teams that are injury depleted. And goodness me, we really did do that last week. And it was fun to watch. But today's going to be another story, I think.
Well, I tell you what, you made a great point, Paul, that Coach Vermeil used to always say, keep losing teams losing. And, I'm not saying the Ravens are a losing team, but you got a team that's beat up and hurt. And, what you got to take advantage. You got to pounce when the opportunity is there. But see, that to me shows maturity out of a young football team, that they were able to go out against a divisional rival, a team you need to beat. For the pundits, it's easy to talk about it. But in that locker room, there has to be a belief, because this is a Cincinnati Bengal team, Paul, that when we looked at the season coming up, when we looked at the 2021 season, almost every year for the last 15 years, there's been a team that's gone from worst to first in their division, right? And if you'd have said the Cincinnati Bengals were going to go leapfrog Pittsburgh, leapfrog Cleveland, leapfrog Baltimore, you couldn't have got 10 people to say that was what's going to happen. And here we are in week 17, and that's very, very much a reality for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's amazing.
It is amazing. I think we all, us guys in the fan base, kind of knew that there was potential there. And again, last year there were some games where we really showed it. We were really just slicing through good defenses on our day when we got it together, like a hot knife through butter. It was amazing to watch. And then we'd have another bad game and then another losing streak, and then it all kind of went bad. And then it really was that inconsistent. But, the two times that we've been to the Super Bowl, the season before, we were 4-12. So us oldies like me who remember certainly the second Super Bowl run, we know in the NFL that can be done. And we hoped there would be a turnaround this year. I don't think now, I think a lot of us thought we would finish with a better record than Pittsburgh, but certainly not the Browns and the Ravens. And that still might change. It might, if we lose today, it might come down to a Battle of Ohio next week to win it all. But yeah, we thought there would be an improvement this year. I mean, we demanded an improvement. It's the year 3 of the Zach Taylor regime, and there needed to be some wins on the board, not just kind of a good performance in a quarter or two here or there, some consistent development and wins on the board. That's what we were all asking for this year. And, Zach and defensive coordinators, Lou Anarumo, seat were very hot actually coming into this season. And I think they've done it's not actually, to make this point, it's not just Joe Burrow that we've seen mature throughout this season. It's actually Zach Taylor as a young head coach. He's made mistakes and he's admitted them quite freely. He's been very honest in that, in his own self-appraisal. But we've also seen the maturation of Zach Taylor as a young head coach as well. So it just feels that things were going in the right direction and the stars are starting to align. Head coach calling good plays, coming up with sound game plans, the players starting to execute and be comfortable in the schemes. And of course, your one-on-one battles, your T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, your Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Trey Hendrickson on the other side of the ball. It is sort of coming together.
Well, fans out there and listeners and viewers out there, if you want to talk to Paul about the Bengals, you want to throw a who day in there. If you want to, you can throw your who day in there. But again, Coffee with Coach is always about the fans. And if you guys want to throw a question to me or throw a question to Magic Mike or to Paul, feel free to weigh in. I wanted to hit on that guy that you just mentioned, because you talked about consistency and you talked about, the high level play over the course of an entire season, which is what, as coaches, we always want, right? Consistent effort, consistent performance is way more important than those flash in the pan, peak and valley kind of guys that, give you a great game and then they take 2 weeks off and then they come back and give you a great game. Those guys drive you nuts. But Hendrickson has been a revelation as a pass rusher, and they needed that so much. And I'll be honest with you, Paul, when they signed him, I didn't know how much of his success in New Orleans was based upon the players around him and how much of it was actually his own. But boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what, he has had a tremendous year for the Bengals.
Oh, hasn't he? I think if he records a half sack today, he breaks an NFL record for consecutive games with a half sack or something like that. But yeah, you're right. We let Carl Lawson go to free agency last off-season, which wasn't hugely popular with Bengals fans. But they picked up Trey Hendrickson, who, of course, got a lot of sacks for the Saints last year. But, the knock on him was that they were kind of cleanup sacks. They were just kind of, he was reaping the benefits of having a really strong defensive line. And so there was some skepticism coming into this season with Trey Hendrickson. But this is one of the things that had to have gone right, as I mentioned at the top of our chat, Jeff. We had to get the offensive line right, if not right, but better. Right. We had to make sure Joe Mixon was injury-free and running the ball well. We had to produce a deep ball threat within our wide receiver core. And on the other side of the ball, we had to improve our secondary play, and we had to beef up our defensive line, not just against the pass, but against the run. Now, DJ Reader, who was one of the bad injuries last year, has returned, and he's been playing, I don't know, he's not been selected for the Pro Bowl, but he's surely one of the best pure noses out there in the game. And he's been a revelation, well, not necessarily a revelation, but just confirmed his his kind of reputation as one of the best there at his position, and that has allowed Trey to really tee off. And the secondary, it's all been kind of quite complementary, because our secondary is better this year. That means the defensive guys up front have more time to get to their quarterback. And Trey Hendrickson has just been amazing. He's just fitted right in. He's relentless. His motor is crazy. And he's just been an absolute revelation. And it's exactly what we've needed, and he's been terrific, really terrific.
Paul, in every single one of the categories you brought up, if it was a checklist, it'd be check, 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 check. All right. Before we get over to the other side and have the Kansas City Chiefs in here today, give me your prediction, Bengals UK's prediction for the big game today against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, I think we've got the players to hurt Kansas City. It's just a case of how long for and how often. And I think with a game like this against a Chiefs team that is so explosive and dynamic on actually both sides of the ball now, they seem to have got it sorted out. You have to be prepared to go toe to toe with them. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be a good old fashioned slugger match. My heart says we will win, but my head says the Chiefs will win. So I'll leave it at that. I did predict a Chiefs win, but I do think we will give them a game. And I think that is when you're a young team and you're pitched against the best, when there's so much on the line. If we win today, we win the AFC North, right? So there's a lot of stuff on the line. And I wouldn't want any other quarterback in the league actually to have to be behind center than Joe Burrow today, because he's just so cool and he's had experience in these huge games at college level. And I do think that we will give them a game today. And I think the Chiefs might just edge it, but I think we will hurt them. Put it that way.
Well, Paul Hirons from the Bengals UK fan club, it is outstanding to have you on the show today. Some outstanding takes for all the Who Day Nation today. Good luck against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a great football game, and you can catch it all on Sky Sports NFL. Again, Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate your views and all the insights into the Cincinnati Bengals.
You're very welcome, Jeff. I've just got to leave to do our own online tailgate now before the game. So thanks for having me on, and we'll have to get you on our podcast or on our own tailgate at some point in the season.
Anytime, buddy, anytime, because I think you guys are going to be playing into January.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Buddy. Okay. Take care.
Paul. Thank you very much. Aloha.
Bye-bye.
All right. What a great bunch of takes from a really, really tuned in Cincinnati fan. Hey, Michael, this is Coffee with Coach, right?
So, it is, yeah.
I'm going to grab another cup of coffee right now. And you know what? I've got blueberry pecan muffins that I made myself because my wife's going for her ocean swim this morning. I got to make sure she's fed well before she goes. So I'm going to step away, take over me right now as I grab a cup of coffee.
I'm going to take over. Fair enough. That's no worries.
All right.
Just you put a wee text him when you're ready to come back. Yeah, all good. All good. He's gone. I've put him out. Yeah, all good. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
See you in a minute. Hi, Mark. How's it going? Good.
Michael, good evening.
Mark Cockrell from the Irish NFL show. We've spoken a good bit, Mark, recently. I'm joking about the NFL. I did not think that Jeff would go off and get muffins.
It's okay, Michael. Sure, we've got coffee. We're an hour and a half to kick off on Sunday night games. It's all good. It's all just getting ready and rocking, raring to go for another wonderful week of NFL action.
I only wish your internet was as good as this whenever we're recording. If just for anyone watching this just before Jeff comes back in, and I'll bring him in and I'm going to disappear whenever he does. But do you want to tell anybody about the show and what's been happening over the last few weeks?
Yeah, sure. So as you just said, Michael, I'm from the Irish NFL show. You can find us on Twitter at IRE-NFL. And we've basically had a show just over a year now covering all things on the NFL across every team, all 32 teams. Been very fortunate to have a lot of fantastic guests during the year from across the spectrum, including some great guy from Hawaii who pops up every so often. So we're kind of slightly returning the favor in that regard. It just happens to be away getting muffins at the moment. But yeah, we've all based out of Ireland and love the NFL, have done for a number of years. So it's always been good. It's always been good on the show. It's always been good when Jeff joins us on the show and we get on to military history or Greek mythology and how it applies to the NFL. Jeff, how you doing?
Fellas,
Happy New Year to you, Coach.
Happy New Year. I'm telling you, I am 2 minutes away from some of the best looking blueberry muffins you have ever seen. So I'm gonna go back out in a second, but Mike, I'm telling you, these are top level. These are high level muffins now.
We've
game
no
day
Chiefs
muffins.
talk. I was going to say, like
these are game day. These are game day muffins, brother. These aren't practice roster muffins.
So, Coach, you know, Tom Cruise will ship over his favorite curry to film sets all around the world whenever he's shooting. We should sort out some kind of transit package for these muffins from Hawaii.
Hey, how you doing, Mark? How's it going, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I mean, that's like another
Happy
new year, but like we're now getting to the squeaky bum time, the fun time of the NFL season. So it's great times.
There are going to be a ton of squeaky bums for that Kansas City-Cincinnati game. I think it's going to be a great, great football game. And I mean, I'm talking about big time. You know, two offenses that are dynamic. I don't know if Cincinnati gets enough credit for how good they are offensively. And, you know, Hendrickson has been a revelation for him defensively. I don't, you know, again, it's two defenses that'll give up yards and give up points. So I think this is going to be a shootout.
Well, I mean, Coach, I mean, some of their own teammates. I mean, I think T. Higgins was being lauded as the new coming of Megatron by one of his teammates during this year. So maybe they're giving themselves enough credit internally, which I don't, you know, it's an interesting comparison. But we've got a great slate of games. I mean, I'm fascinated by the Cowboys-Cards game later on in the evening as well. You consider how the Cards are swooning and how the Cowboys are surging. I mean, this is the great thing about this time of the season. The games, you know, they really matter. And you're seeing dynamic matches that can easily be replicated in the playoffs in only a couple of weeks' time.
You know, Fred Flunk is one of the biggest Cowboy fans I know, and he's an Irishman like you guys. And I'm going to tell you something. They might just be a Super Bowl team. Now, I know that, you know, every year we talk about them, and every year they disappoint us. But I'm going to tell you something. That team is playing. Dan Quinn he should be assistant coach of the year. It was interesting. He turned down an opportunity to interview for the Jacksonville job. Yeah. You know, again, which I think says an awful lot about him, number one, and what kind of organization that the Cowboys have. You know, he's going to get paid. He's going to get a bigger payday, no question. Jerry has seems like a limitless checkbook, but I just really think that their defense has been a revelation. You know, we can, you know, you talk about the easy ones, you know, Parsons and Diggs, but I'm going to tell you, there's more than two guys on that defense that are playing high level football. And then offensively, they got so many weapons. And, you know, Dak, I don't think it ever gets the credit he's gotten or deserves. But what I'm saying is, this is a team that you look at them and you say, damn, and they block a punt for a touchdown last week. So they're getting all three phases playing.
Well, I mean, you say on the defensive side, they finally got healthy, Coach. They finally had the D-line that they thought they were going to have at the start of the season. You know, Randy Gregory coming back in there is another player who just came back and has been explosive the last couple of weeks. So it's all across that line. And on the offense, you're right, Dak doesn't get the credit. I don't think Kellen Moore gets the credit either. I mean, they've got the superstars, but they need to sync them all in together. And I think he calls a pretty good game at offensive coordinator there. So, you know, fair play to what he's doing. And obviously he's getting a bit of notice around the Jags openings and, you know, being touted as one of those potentials for a head coaching gig if it comes up. I mean, Jerry will pay him and keep him there. I mean, he's, you know, done that with Jason Garrett in the past and keeping his own coordinator there almost as the next head coach in waiting. For me, I actually was thinking about this earlier on the other week, Jeff. It's the most comprehensive we've seen the Cowboys in terms of a Super Bowl contender since 2014. When you remember the famous catch, no catch issue with Des Bryant against the Packers. Obviously, the rule changed subsequently. But, you know, they looked a complete team who could go the whole way that year. Obviously got derailed. But, I mean, look at the NFC side. You've got the Cowboys who have their flaws and have their history, obviously. The Packers, who for the last 10 years seem to always find a way to mess it up, even with Aaron Rodgers there. The Rams, who might be a bunch of superstars, but can they win the big game? It's just the fascination of all the storylines. I mean, the Bucs don't look like a juggernaut in any manner of means, but they're going to be there or thereabouts, and they're going to try and rely upon some old man magic to help them through, obviously, at times. So, like, it's the playoff season. It's just fantastic, Jeff. Every single
All
day.
right, fellas, I'm just about to unveil them. I'm going to go get them, and I'm going to show them around the world on Coffee with the Coach what I can get done in the kitchen. All right, hold on.
I did not expect this at all.
Well, I mean, Michael, this could be a new baking segment to Coffee with Coach. It'd be coffee and buns with Coach.
Full disclosure, this show was meant to be on last night at 8 p.m. and it didn't happen for technology. Oh, here he is.
Now,
Oh, wow.
fellas, I didn't get these from Central Casting. As a matter of fact, my hands are hot here. Let me see if I can get those up there. What do you think, man? Huh?
Let me just put this full screen, Jeff.
How about that? That is what, you got to be able to play both sides of the ball. You got to play offense, defense, special teams. You just can't make coffee. You got to be able to bring it with the muffins too.
Jeff, I didn't think I'd be saying this to you this afternoon, but you got some mighty fine looking buns there.
I'll be right back.
Oh, do you want to get your Patriots talk out of the way, Mark? Because just for anyone watching this and has never heard or seen Mark before, he's a big
dismiss the Patriots. Yeah, I am a lifelong Patriots fan amongst being an NFL fan, Michael. But I mean,
Fellas,
we don't have to talk about the Patriots. They're playing the Jags this weekend. That's not an interesting game. There's far more.
There's a comment though from Daniel in the UK says he thinks that Arizona are going to beat the Cowboys by 17 points today.
They could, but based on current performance in the last while, I don't see it. I mean, yes, past behavior is no indication of future success. That's what they tell you about investing in the stock market anyway. But Arizona started out 7-0, and look what they've done in the last 8 games. Going 3-5, throwing away the conference lead, throwing away the division lead. I mean, Coach, I mentioned this actually on our show the other night. I said they're reminding me a lot of Pittsburgh last year, running up a great lead or a great record to begin with, but then just starting to fade away. The defense starting to crack a little. They're relying just on Kyler to make some magic happen, and he can, but it's not really a coherent offensive game plan in my mind. So,
Mark, you hit it on the head. I mean, it's like that thing you said about the stock market, that disclaimer that they give you after they tell you about all the money or those lawyers that are, we call them ambulance chasers, the guys that are out there saying, if you've been hurt, you call me and I got $6 million to this guy. And then at the end it says, no guarantee, right? Well, the fact of the matter is, if you look at Kingsbury's career in total and go back to his Texas Tech days, this is exactly what you've gotten every year. Start hot, win early, fade down the stretch, finish at, just another football team. They are so wildly inconsistent. And when I watch them, I wanna root for them. I really do, because I've got a couple of my players, Kelvin Beachum, the starting right tackle, and Chris Banjo, the safety, are my guys, right? And I love the way I coach Vance Joseph in pro football. I mean, there's ties there, right? And I'm usually a fan of players, not teams. So I want to win. I want the Cardinals to win. But man, oh man, when I watch them, they just drive me nuts, because Kyler Murray will make a great play, and then he'll have a guy wide open in the flat on third down and throw it at his feet. I mean, he's just so inconsistent. And we were talking about that with Paul Hirons from Bengals UK, about how important it is that a guy's consistent, that you play at a high level all the time. And, consistent effort and performance is, to a coach, so important, as opposed to those guys that are peaks and valleys guys, where they have a great play and then 4 bad ones and then another great one. And, so that's my challenge with the Cardinals. I think Dallas is going to beat them today.
Yeah, I'm with you too, Coach. I think Dallas is going to beat them in part because you know what you're going to get a little bit more with Dallas. In past, they have been that up and down team. They can beat anyone on their day, and they can lose to anyone on their day. I mean, okay, they're not as bad as the Vikings. The Vikings are like the Jekyll and Hyde of all teams at any point. You can't ever bet on the Vikings in any circumstances. But the Cowboys this year, it started right out of the gate in that the Bucks game, Tampa Bay Bucks on opening night. They surprised a lot of people. I mean, the defense still looked poor, but they pulled that together because they got beat on play action about 10 times in that game. But they pushed the Bucks all the way. And I was like, hang on, these Cowboys might be there to play this year. Obviously, they've had more luck with the injuries. They've been pretty consistent. They had one or two dodgy games, obviously, when Dak was a bit banged up as well, but they've been super consistent, even dealing with injuries to people like Zeke Elliott, injuries across the offensive line, like we alluded to earlier, injuries across that D line. I mean, for me, one of the fascinating stories as well, you say about Cliff Kingsbury, look at the guy on the other side of the field. Mike McCarthy was vilified at Green Bay. When he came to the Cowboys, it was like, what's this idiot joining? He's a clipboard holder. Oh, my God, we made such a terrible pick. And they look a pretty consistent team. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't trust his late game management very much at the best of the times. But, he has a chance to write the stars. He has a chance to win a Super Bowl with a second different franchise, which not too many people have done in the history of the NFL. And that rewrites his coaching career, his history altogether in one foul swoop as well.
Well, you got to go. I mean, I'm just through my mind right now of the number of guys that have even taken two teams to a Super Bowl. Andy Reid's done it.
Yep.
Vermeil's done it. But very, very few guys have had
Shula
that
would have been with the Colts and the Fins.
Yeah, to be able to do that. I'll bet it's less than 5 in the history of the National Football League. So that's pretty rarefied air. The interesting thing about McCarthy is, because of, Aaron Rodgers and because of Brett Favre and because of the quarterbacks that he's had, his role has kind of been, at least in the media, de-emphasized. And he doesn't have a lot of charisma. He's not that guy that you're going to, like Bill Cowher, or you're going to,
No.
Even Tony Dungy in his stoic way, you would always, like, Tony was kind of the face of it. He's kind of a frumpy, fat guy standing on the sidelines with a like he hasn't shaved in a week, and he just doesn't look the part. There's an old saying in coaching: before you lead the cavalry, you got to look good on a horse. Well, he doesn't look good on a horse at all. But this would be a season, if they can finalize it, that his legacy would change. I really truly believe that, because you're right. He got vilified at the end in Green Bay, and then it seemed like all the criticism about Mike was valid after the first year with the Cowboys. They were a mess on clock management. Their special teams decisions were goofy. It was just bad football. But he has really, and I think that's a little bit of, the Dan Quinn, spin-off effect, or residual effect of Dan Quinn. And you mentioned Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was a quarterback at Boise State when I was at Hawaii, a left-handed guy that couldn't throw it very far or very hard, or nothing impressive about him, except he was really smart, and he always made great decisions. He knew where to go with the ball, and he was unflappable as a competitor. So all of those traits that got him an opportunity to hang around the NFL for a few years and become a coach are the things that you see as a play caller. He's going to be a head coach very, very soon in this league.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. I still think Jerry will keep him around. I mean, I should have said, actually, Coach, we're talking about people who've brought two teams to the Super Bowl. Of course, Dan Reeves, who just recently passed as well, obviously did it with the Broncos and the Falcons. But McCarthy's journey, if you like, I think still, and it's not the most popular thing to say, it's actually a testament to the type of owner Jerry Jones is. Because for all of Jerry Jones's faults, and there are some, we'll probably have to admit as fans of the game in relation to this, Jerry will give his coaches a chance. Well, unless you're Jimmy Johnson, but that's a different matter. But he will generally, he held on to Jason Garrett longer than people thought he should have given him. He gave Wade Phillips maybe a year longer than most of the fan base wanted to give him in relation to it. I think that, I made a bit of a plea this week that ownership really matters. You see the burning fires that are going on in the Texans. You see the Washington football team and Dan Snyder's leadership of the franchise overall. Ownership, that third part of the trifecta of head coach, maybe quarterback, and ownership, that really does count for something. And Jerry's had a lot of flaws, especially in the draft, shall we say. And I think Stephen Jones had a very positive influence on him there. But he's an owner who will at least give his team, his coaches, an opportunity, his players an opportunity. And maybe this is the season he gets some of that love and loyalty back.
Brother, let's dig into that right there, because you hit on something that I think is really intriguing. because, we're all products of what we come through, what we are, Jerry has been very successful as an oil man coming up the hard way. I mean, the hard way. And was a tremendous promoter. And the oil business is so, that you talk about mercurial. But he was such a tremendous promoter, and he was a risk taker and was willing to have a dry hole, a dry hole, a dry hole, a dry hole, and then a gusher. But when you talk to him, you never heard about the dry holes. You always heard about the gushers. And that's the way he has been with the Cowboys, right? And I agree with you very, very much. I think Stevens' influence has really helped him, get away from that, like you look at their drafts early on and it was like, wow. After Jimmy left and Larry Lacewell left, then it was like a mess. And then I think Steven has kind of brought him back a little bit. And Will McClay is a guy that nobody even knows who Will McClay is. Most people don't know who Will McClay is, but he's the head of scouting. He's one of their top personnel guys. And Will McClay is very, very good and has the ability to work in that crazy environment that Jerry kind of creates on draft day. So the Cowboys, I've always been not a Cowboy hater at all, but just one of those guys that said, hey, wait a second, pump the brakes a little bit here on this thing now. But this year, I think it could be, the Cowboys' year. Let's talk about the Chiefs. I want to get into the Chiefs a little bit. This is a huge one for the Chiefs now. Again, obviously because, Cincinnati, so much at stake for Cincinnati. But I think for the Chiefs, there's a little bit at stake here too. And it has to do with their ability to take defensively take that step now against a really good, potentially really good offensive football team in Cincinnati, and a chance for them to, really make that next statement going into the playoffs that, hey, now we are back. I know statistically they played really well down the stretch, and moving Chris Jones back inside is the smartest thing they've done. But Melvin Ingram is the key, because he's come in there and he plays angry, and all of a sudden Tyrann Mathieu, boom, he's on fire. Chris Jones goes back on inside where he can really push. Now you got an edge guy. It's amazing how the one guy can make such a huge difference.
Yeah, it's funny, Jeff. We actually interviewed Brendan Daly, who's the D-line coach of the Chiefs, in, I think it was probably week 5, week 6. It was like the middle of the dumpster fire that was going on to start their season off. And Brendan Daly came on. He was an absolute gentleman. He was kind of pretty laid back, relaxed, had a great chat about things. We, probed him about, do you ever make Pat Mahomes stop chasing making your defenders chase him around the field? And he kind of shared a couple of thoughts about it. Yeah, there's a certain point where we just say, yeah, just stop, call the play dead and everything. We don't need people pulling hamstrings trying to chase him down. But he was almost so relaxed. He was like, he talked with us and he said, oh, I've got to go now. Training's kicking off. And just strolled out onto the field. And I kind of remember we talked to him, we talked as a team afterwards. It was kind of like, I think they're going to be fine, because there's no panic. There's no pressure almost. I mean, that's a testament, obviously, to what Andy Reid's built there in terms of that whole coaching team and that whole coaching staff. But all season long, I was kind of preaching. It's like, this team's been there and done it. They've got enough talent. Just give them time. They've got enough coaching talent. Just give them time. They've got a brand new offensive line they're trying to gel together. Just give them time. Look what's happened. 8 wins on the bounce. They're the hottest team in the NFL. And the funny thing is, Jeff, of course, they're doing it a different way than which they've done it in the past. There have been games where Tyreek Hill has gone off for 190 yards, or Travis Kelce, against the Chargers, for example, has caught and run for over 150 yards and got the game-winning touchdown in overtime, and all of the, the usual shebang with their, twin threat. But they're pounding the ball on the ground with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's missing today. I think it's going to be a big loss. But that defense since week 8, I think it's the tightest defense in the NFL since week 8. I mean, it's like they were Gandalf standing on top of the bridge, and they've said to the dragon, thou shalt not pass anymore, and collapse the whole thing down. Yes, there's the move inside by Chris Jones, but it's just they've coalesced as a team. They've got the secondary working in sync together. They're not giving up bad breakdowns in the secondary that they were doing the first few weeks. And I agree, this Cincinnati team is a big challenge for them. I mean, you were joined just as Paul was going through. It's not just the consistency of Joe Burrow. It's the talents of Chase and Higgins. It's the running capability and the power of Joe Mixon. So they will present them with a test. And, of course, the playoffs will all be about tests. But there's a chance for them to cement their legacy of, what about if you win a Super Bowl a different way? Look what, and yes, I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm biased. Look what Tom Brady and Bill Belichick did. They won it with defense, effectively. They won it with a power running game. They won it eventually. They tried to win it with a 2 tight end set and spread offense sets, but they won it again with a completely different offensive structure, completely different offensive scheme. That's what this Chiefs team potentially has an opportunity to do. Mahomes is dinking and dunking a lot more. They're being a lot more methodical, and they're winning it much more with defense. So that's an opportunity to change your stars this year as well.
Well, one of the things, and those are all great takes, every single one. And one of the things you learn in this business, if you're going to stay in this business, you better be able to adapt and you better be able to overcome, because people are going to find ways to defend you. These guys are all getting paid. These are all great football coaches, and they have tremendous resources at their fingertips. Incredible scouting. They can make, the analytics, you got more analytics than you could ever use. So if you're somebody who can't adjust and can't change, then you're going to be a dinosaur real fast. And you know what the dinosaurs are? They're in the museums. They're not out roaming the countryside. So I do give Andy a tremendous amount of credit. And again, we go back to one of the things that you said, Mark, that is so critical in success. And I'm talking about not just one-time success. I'm talking about long-term success, is ownership. And the Hunt family is another family that has been very, very patient with a number of head coaches. And they give coaches an opportunity to build a culture. Because if the owner, and I think this is where Washington hasn't figured it out yet, when the owner is a distraction or is, the stories, for example, when Bruce Smith was with the Redskins, or that was the Redskins at that time, the football club, he would just bypass the head coach and go right to Dan Snyder's office and to get what he wanted. Well, once that happens and the players see it, you're done. Now, I know from being in Kansas City, that's not the way the Hunts work. And, you have to deal with the GM, you have to do the natural chain of command. And anytime you usurp the chain of command as the owner, and Jerry's done this a few times, you cut the legs out of your coaches and what they're trying to build. So again, I think that's a great lesson and a great take by you, that fans sometimes overlook the value of tremendous ownership. Hey, we got any questions, Michael? If you got questions out there, get them to Mark and I and Mike, and we'll fire them away. I do got one I want to address before we get any further, and it's from a listener in Ireland, Fred Flunk. He says, final question, what's your plan for next season, Coach? Well, I can't tell you that right now. So we have, we made the decision. We're not going back to Hamilton. Obviously, just felt like it was time to move on and take on other challenges. The phone has been ringing. I don't know where we're going to go with this. My agent's a guy named Paul Sheehy, who works for ProStar in Denver and outstanding. And he'll sort through all of the, all the things that have come. And again, I talked to Alex Mason at Sky about possibility of doing more work there. So we'll see. We'll be doing something somewhere in football. I can guarantee you that. So don't worry. We'll keep you posted. All right.
Congratulations, though, Jeff, on your time at Hamilton. It's the end of an era, and I can't wait to see what's next.
It was 7 years of really great players and a lot of fun, a lot of wins. We lost some, but we had an awful lot of fun. And I tell you, especially to the players, that's when it's toughest, when because you get so close to the players. And we got a really good, I got to start learning to say they've got a really good young group, and I think they got a chance to be really good for a long time. So it'll be fun to watch those kids develop.
There's a question here. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Coach, you nearly signed off in the perfect way with the Grey Cup. Just, slight bridesmaid this year, but it was a great run on the whole team. But I was going to say, Coach. I mean, one thing we'll get you over to Ireland for a few drinks at some point. I think that'll have to be definitely.
There is a rumor circulating around that that's going to happen sooner than later. So stay tuned to all your media outlets, whether that's Irish NFL or Coffee with Coach. We got another question, Mike.
We've got a couple, and I'll let you boys go and get ready for this early kickoff. Question from Chris: there's talk of a Madden or Reeves commemorative audible today. If you had one play as a tribute, what are you calling it?
To a John Madden audible tribute?
The ghost in the post, wasn't it Billy Casper?
Yeah, the ghost in the post. But you know what? The one I think about every time I think about those Raiders, right? I think about Cliff Branch on a post route. You know what I'm saying? Because Cliff was a track guy out of Colorado, and he was Mr. Davis's guy because he could run. And I can just see Snake going back, kind of stumbling back away from center because he wasn't a very pretty quarterback when he dropped, and just left hand heaving that thing down the sideline, and Cliff Branch catching it like that for a touchdown. That to me is the John Madden football, where they were a vertical first passing game, and Freddie would catch the underneath stuff, Casper would work the middle, and outside it was Cliff Branch for 6.
Michael, just actually being very serious, it would be amazing if in the 6 p.m. kickoffs, everyone did what Denver did as a tribute to Demaryius Thomas only a couple of weeks ago. Every team took a delay of game penalty, the defense declines it, and then you get on with the game, just as a point of acknowledging two of the greats who have left the game. I mean, Dan Reeves gets not washed away, but I mean, like, John Madden was such a personality and all the tributes coming into him. Dan Reeves won over 200 games as a head coach. Only 7 people have done that in the history of the NFL. He brought 4 teams to the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, he was an amazing coach as well. So something to commemorate the two of them would be fantastic to see.
And what a player Dan Reeves was. I mean, what a player. And, a lot of people, obviously, because of the era that he played in, don't remember him, but was a fantastic running back for the Cowboys, and then went into coaching and, learned at the hand of Tom Landry, or at the knee of Tom Landry, and, with those great Dallas teams from, the Doomsday defense and Roger Staubach, and they were just really wonderful times in Dallas, and he'll always be remembered there. But, was an outstanding coach, like you said, won a tremendous amount of games, and a guy that never wanted the spotlight, never wanted to be, he was kind of like, low key and focused on the players, but one in Denver, one in New York, one in Atlanta, guy's a winner.
Coach, he reminded me a little bit of his old head coach, Tom Landry. Obviously, we're talking about Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones's first job as owner was firing Tom Landry because the previous owners wouldn't do it. But it almost that same kind of low-key demeanor, but just never getting, obviously, that Super Bowl victory. And Landry had a couple of them with Reeves as a player in one of those Super Bowls.
Yeah, and as a guy, you think about how in the world is he not in the Hall of Fame? There are a couple of guys that are not in the Hall of Fame, and he's one that I say, man, we got to reconsider this. Gil Brandt talked about that the other day, and Gil was part of that dynasty that the Cowboys had in the 60s and 70s.
Last point of the show, I think, depending on you, Jeff. From Liam in the UK, he is hoping for a Chargers win and a Miami loss today. That's what he's hoping for.
Well, you know what? I tell you, Chargers, there's another team. You talk about Arizona being inconsistent. You keep waiting for the Chargers. This is going to be a fascinating run to the Super Bowl, because there is not anybody that I'm willing to say right now, that's the team, right? I think Kansas City's getting to become more and more of that every week. But fellas, who are you picking? I mean, right now I can't say there's a it's a bunch of dark horses and nobody's the lead horse right now.
Coffee with Coach Super Bowl special, LA, 12th of February.
We're doing it.
Sounds
and
good.
there are going to be some more specials along the way as we get there.
Yes, sir.
Coach, I love, actually, just one last point, Liam's comment there. Isn't it great? Like, he's there avidly now going to be following the Dolphins game, praying that they lose. And this is the best thing about this part of the season. It's not just what your team's doing, it's what you're in contention. I mean, I'm hoping the Colts win today, because if the Colts win and the Pats win, the Pats are guaranteed in the wild card because the Raiders won't be able to overtake them. So the different permutations of the different games, I'll be quite happy if the Dolphins lose as well, Liam. So we'll be with you on that train as well. But
one of the
still counts in some way.
Well, one of my greatest joys in doing the games at Sky is this time of year, listening to Neil go through all the permutations that could happen, and who's still alive and who's not alive, and who's going to get a wild card and who's going to get a home field advantage. Because there's even if you've clinched right now, you're playing for seeding these last 2 weeks, and that's critical. Home field advantage to the playoffs is humongous. So it's going to be exciting all the way through.
Final comment. Trebor, I probably haven't pronounced this correctly. Trebor Mintz, who I'm presuming is in the UK because of the name, says he has NFL Game Day muted and he's watching this instead. Great show, thanks. We should probably go off now because Sky Sports are starting. So
all right,
just to make sure. But Jeff,
awesome.
Hopefully see you soon.
Next week.
Next week. It's definitely happening. Yeah, you're publicly saying this on the internet. Yeah, next week.
I'm saying it. I'm backing it. All right, here we go. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much. As well.